Welcome to the McIntyre Drive traffic calming information session. My name is Stefan Baer. I want to thank you for coming. Before we start, I do want to acknowledge that the city of Whitehorse is proudly located within the traditional territory of the Kwanlin Dun First Nation and Town Quechan Council, whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. Here's an overview of tonight's agenda. I'm going to go through a round of introductions, talk a little bit about housekeeping using the Zoom platform. I have a presentation. The presentation will be about 20 minutes long, and there'll be some time for question and answers. First off, introductions. My name is Stefan Baer. I'm a transportation engineer here at the city of Whitehorse. I'm the project manager for the McIntyre Drive traffic calming project. Later in this session, I will be joined by Tracy Allen, the Director of Operations and the Acting Director of Development Services here at the city of Whitehorse. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about housekeeping using the Zoom platform. What you see and what I see on the platform as the presenter and as you as the attendee. So in your interface, you'll likely see a chat window, you'll see a question and answer tool, see other tools and other settings. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please put all your questions in the question and answer tool. I'll be monitoring these throughout the presentation. However, I'll answer all questions at the end of the presentation during our designated question and answer period. If you cannot hear my audio or see my video feed, first, please check your audio, video, computer, and headphones and their respective settings. If you still can't hear my audio or see my video, please use the chat button to let me know. I'll try my best to address any technical issues on my end. However, I may not be able to help you with technical difficulties on your end. For further information, please check out the Zoom website for troubleshooting information. If for any reason there's an internet outage or something unforeseen that I'm not able to fix in a reasonable amount of time, I will end the session early, and I'll conduct a separate recording and post it on our project website. If you still have questions after this, feel free to please use the Ask a Question tool on our project website at engagewhitehorse.ca. Also, please note that this session is being recorded. Now, onto the presentation. So tonight, we're here to talk about the McIntyre Drive traffic calming project, reimagining McIntyre Drive to improve road safety. I want to get to know our participants a little bit more, where you're from, and why you decided to tune in tonight. So first, poll. So where do you live? So on your screen, you should see a poll come up very shortly. Where do you live? McIntyre neighborhood, nearby neighborhoods such as Copper Ridge or Ingram or others? Do you live in another neighborhood, or do you prefer not to say? And that's completely okay as well. I'll leave it up for a little bit. Looks like everybody's responded. So you will see that most of the people here tonight live in a nearby neighborhood. Our next poll of the evening, why did you choose to attend this information session? I'm just personally curious. So you will see, so like the last poll, you will see a poll come up on your screen very shortly. It should be up right now. So do you live along McIntyre Drive? Do you live in the McIntyre neighborhood? Are you a citizen of Kwanlin Dun First Nation? Are you curious about the city's transportation projects and initiatives? Do you think road safety is important? Do you have questions about this project? So you can check all that apply. I'll leave it up for about 10 or 15 more seconds. Looks like most people have responded. So if you look at the results, most people here are curious about the city's transportation projects and initiatives. Think road safety is important and have questions about the project. Thanks for letting me know. So what's the background to this project? Why is the city doing this project? And how did this come about? Over the years, citizens of the Kwanlin Dun First Nation have raised concerns about speeding, lighting, and pedestrian crossing safety in the McIntyre neighborhood, and particularly along the McIntyre neighborhood. Presently, and in the next year or so, there are pretty major infrastructure upgrades coming to McIntyre, including upgrades to lighting and power. And lastly, the corridor is evolving. There's many new developments happening along the corridor. There's a brand new community hub in existence. There will be a new education center. The Ball Diamond will be relocated. All of these will change the look and the feel of the community and how people will get around. So we took this background, this context, and we came up with the project goals for the McIntyre Drive traffic calming project. So what can we do to address some of these issues and capitalize on some of these opportunities? So project goal number 1 is to reduce vehicle speeds. So our goal is to design for a speed that matches the local environment and the local context. We realize that McIntyre Drive is not an arterial roadway like Hamilton Boulevard. It's not a local road such as McCrimmon or McClimmon. It's somewhere in between. It still needs to move people. However, it does go right through a neighborhood as well. So our goal number 1 is to reduce vehicle speeds to improve safety and comfort that match the local context. Our goal number 2 is to improve safety and comfort for active transportation users. We want to make it attractive to get around this community by walking and by biking. So we have very many tools that we can use to achieve the project goals. So we've talked about the background, about reducing speed and creating safe and comfortable places for people walking and cycling. And how do we do that? Our first major tool is, in the name itself, traffic calming. So I know that you might be thinking, doesn't traffic calming just mean more speed bumps, more signs? Yes and no. It may include speed bumps and it may include signage, but it's also a lot more. I'll explain more in detail. I also know you're thinking, doesn't McIntyre Drive already have traffic calming? The speed limit's 30, there are playground zones, and there is a speed bump at the daycare. Yes and no. McIntyre Drive does have traffic calming, but only in select locations. We also know that even though the speed limit is 30, it's often not readily complied, especially on the really long straight stretches from the gas station to the new community hub. So yes, McIntyre Drive does have traffic calming, but it's quite limited and it has limited levels of effectiveness. So what kind of tools for traffic calming do we plan to use? We're going to use 3 key tools to achieve the project goals. Tool number 1, chicanes. As you can see on the picture, a chicane is a horizontal deviation in the road, followed by another one and another one. These horizontal chicanes, these S-turns in the road, they require drivers to pay a bit more attention to the road. Instead of a long straight stretch where a driver can sit back, relax a little bit more, this actually requires a bit more driver concentration to carefully navigate around these curves. And what that does is it typically induces drivers to drive a bit slower. Tool number 2 for traffic calming is curb extensions and road narrowing. When we narrow the road, such as putting through curb extensions, what this does is it narrows the distance that pedestrians need to cross. It also puts pedestrians more visible to drivers, and so drivers and pedestrians can make better eye contact. We also know when a road is wide, has large shoulders, it feels too comfortable. When a road feels too comfortable, people tend to go faster. We know that this is also true in the opposite. We start to make a road a little bit narrower, a little bit less comfortable, people tend to go a bit slower. So that's a bit about curb extensions and road narrowing. The last traffic calming tool that we plan to use is raised pedestrian crossings. On your screen shortly, you should see an image of a raised pedestrian crossing. What these do is it acts as a speed bump for vehicles. It provides a barrier-free crossing for pedestrians. It gives and reinforces that pedestrians and cyclists have the right of way. And this forces vehicles to stop. And lastly, it makes vehicles feel like a guest because they're driving up into the pedestrian world rather than pedestrians coming down into the driving world. Now, I want to show you a case study of traffic calming tools in use. So this is a road in the city of Ottawa. So as you can see on the picture, it's a wide roadway with unmarked parking lanes. Speeding was always an issue in this neighborhood. Had a young population with a local elementary school. It was also a bus route. Does this at all sound familiar? Perhaps like McIntyre Drive? Now, this is the road after traffic calming was implemented. As you can see, the road has been narrowed quite a bit. On your left here, I'm just going to get my laser pointer. On your left here, you can see a landscape boulevard. And on the right, in the distance, you can see the first chicane. So this landscape boulevard and this parking on this side, these act as the chicanes. The chicane was developed by alternating which side of the street had the parking lane. In this street's experience, speed reductions were achieved. So this is just a case study about how chicanes and curb extensions and road narrowing were used as a traffic calming tool. So I've talked a bit about our traffic calming set of tools. We also have another set of tools to achieve project goal number 2. And to make safe places for people to walk and cycle. These are active transportation facilities. The 2 tools that we're using are sidewalks and cycle tracks. And we know that people feel more comfortable and more safe when they have dedicated spaces to walk or cycle, separated from vehicle traffic. On your screen, you'll see a picture. This is from the town of Canmore in Alberta, and it shows active transportation facilities in use. So on your far right on the screen, you can see my laser pointer in white. That is the sidewalk. That's where pedestrians are usually supposed to walk. In red, it's a cycle track. In gray over here where my pointer is, that's where the vehicle lanes are. A few things that you'll notice is that between the cycle track and between the driving lane, there's some horizontal separation. This acts as a buffer, and this provides a sense of safety and comfort to both cyclists and those who are walking, because they're further separated from vehicle traffic. There's also a curb that separates vehicle traffic from cyclists and pedestrians, giving more safety and comfort. So this is an example of cycle tracks and sidewalks in action. So I've talked about traffic calming, the traffic calming tools that we can use, and I've talked about active transportation facilities. We want to use these tools to design an environment that self-reinforces the speed that people should go along the corridor and throughout the corridor. We want to give particular attention to places that have vulnerable road users, such as children at the Future Education Center and the playground. So our goal is to use these tools to make it just a bit less comfortable for people to drive very fast by using these tools. Now you're probably wondering, how are we going to use these tools? Where are these tools going to be used? And what are the key upgrades that are being proposed as a part of this project? Well, chicanes are going to be placed throughout the corridor. They're going to be alternating from one side to the other. Curb extensions and road narrowing are going to be proposed at select locations. We'll have raised pedestrian crossings at select locations. For example, between the existing community hub to the proposed education hub is one area that's being considered. Wider sidewalks are being proposed. A brand new sidewalk on the east side of McIntyre Drive. Dedicated unidirectional cycle tracks on both sides of the road. And unidirectional meaning one way, so for one-way cycle traffic. And lastly, enhanced lighting. On your screen here, you'll see a sample design concept of all these traffic calming tools and active transportation facility tools in action. My laser pointer should be on your screen right now, and I'll show you how the tools are being used. So this is McIntyre Drive and McCrimmon Crescent and O'Brien Road. In gray here, this is the sidewalk. Going here, there's a brand new sidewalk on the east side of McIntyre Drive. In blue, this is the cycle track. So these are unidirectional cycle tracks. So cyclists are intended to drive in the same direction as vehicles. So cyclists on this side are going to be going in this direction, and cyclists on this side will be going the opposite direction. In gray here, these are the vehicle lanes, and then these are pavement markings. One example of a traffic calming tool you see here is curb extensions and road narrowing. So curb extensions, this is where the curb comes all the way out and it narrows the pedestrian crossing distance. In green here, this is a landscape boulevard. And this acts as a buffer to separate active transportation users from vehicular traffic. And in this other type of blue are the driveways. So this is just a sample design concept of McIntyre Drive and McCrimmon Crescent and O'Brien Road. It just shows how these are being used. As we go through the design process, we'll be finalizing how this is going to be implemented specifically at each location. And this is just for concept. Now, probably wondering, what's the timeline for all this? Presently, we're in the detailed design phase, and this is ongoing. We're also doing public engagement right now until May 17th. Construction is proposed for 2023. How can you get involved? You may have come to this webinar because you saw this project on our engagement platform. If you haven't seen our engagement platform, on that platform, you can share your ideas. What do you think about McIntyre Drive? This is on engagewhitehorse.ca. You can use the interactive map to let us know where you like to cross the road. Where do you experience lighting issues or drainage issues like puddles or ice? Let us know some community insights, some insider knowledge that we might not readily know, and other transportation issues along the corridor. You can also use Engage Whitehorse to ask a question about the project as well. We also have a pop-up booth on June 2nd from 4 until 6 at the KDFN Community Ring. We hope to see you there. For all the latest information and for further information, please check out engagewhitehorse.ca. Now, that concludes my presentation. We do have some time now for a dedicated question and answer period. So I invite you, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the question and answer. If you'd prefer to say your question out loud, I can allow you to talk and enable your audio if that's easier. while questions are being formulated, I'm going to show our engagement platform so you can see more about our project website. This is our engagement platform here, Engage Whitehorse. If you scroll down to McIntyre Drive traffic calming, see a bit more about the project. It shows the level of engagement, timeline, key dates, documents such as the conceptual design, who's listening, some resources on traffic calming. So I see that Richard has a question. It looks like it's more of a comment here. Thank you for your comments here, Richard. I'm glad to see that you're as excited about the project as I am. Yeah, it should function as a good alternate route as well if you're cycling down Hamilton Boulevard. Thanks for the comments, Richard. Any other? I'll keep it open for any other questions that people might have. Richard, I see you have another question. Did you want me to enable your audio? Your question just says looted. I'm not entirely sure what you mean here. I've just unmuted you, Richard, if you want to elaborate a bit.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks for, introducing us to this project. I'm super happy to see this initiative. I'm not gonna repeat the comments I already wrote about, but I'm curious about whether these traffic calming improvements will also include where McIntyre Drive intersects with Hamilton Boulevard, whether it's at the the EET roundabout or at the other end near the new gas station and store. I see that as a couple of areas that could use improvement for active transportation. And I'm wondering if that would be included, and if not, if what can be done to maybe try to include some improvements in those two intersections as well.
Thanks for the question, Richard. I'm actually just rereading your comment here, and I see that you snuck a question right at the end, and I might have missed it. I thought it was just a mostly commentary, but thanks for the question. Unfortunately, we're not doing any improvements to the intersections. The reason being is that we typically treat intersections and corridors. We're trying to do them a bit more separately. An intersection is looked at very differently than a corridor, and the scope of the project is primarily includes mainly the corridor. We do know that there's some concerns with some of the intersections, and we anticipate that depending on the results of the pending transportation master plan, that maybe in the future there'll be some improvements proposed in the future, but not specifically as a part of this project.
All right, well, thanks for the answer.
Thanks for the question, Richard. Cynthia, I see that you asked a question here in the chat. How has KDFN been involved so far with the project? And do they agree that the proposed upgrades will address their concerns? Thank you for the great question, Cynthia. Yes, KDFN has been involved in the project so far. And we've worked closely with Larry Turner, who's the Director of Community Services. He's been our community liaison there during the project. And we also presented to the KDFN Council earlier this year, and they've been very supportive of the project and the concept and where it's going. And they do feel that this is kind of in line with what they're thinking will address some of the concerns. So thank you for the question, Cynthia. Does that sort of answer it? Noted, thank you. So I see Tracy's on the line. Tracy is the Director of Development Services here, Acting Director of Development Services here at the city. And she's here to join in to help answer any questions that you might have about the project. I see another question here from Richard. Would there the opportunity in the design to build a more definite physical barrier between cars and active transportation than was shown in the Canmore slide? That's a good question, Richard. A more definite physical barrier. We're not quite at that stage yet, but what do you have in mind? I'm curious, what do you have in mind in particular as a definite physical barrier? And why and how that would be applied in this kind of context. So you can feel free to unmute yourself if you want to speak to that a bit.
Yeah, no, I was just, thank you. I was just looking at that slide from Canmore. I think there's been some really great work done in Canmore with, I think in collaboration or with help from some Dutch designers. I've watched a few videos from by Mobicon there that talked about some great improvements in Canmore. And just looking at that slide, there really isn't a physical barrier between the cars and the cyclists as shown in the picture. There's a bit of a paved area strip and a gutter, but really no barrier that would protect the cyclists and pedestrians from cars. So I was just curious if a consideration might be to provide a bit more buffer or possibly some physical structures between the cyclists, pedestrians, and the cars.
Yeah, we can definitely consider that. I think I can't speak to this example here from Canmore, but the reason they likely didn't include a barrier, and I'm just speaking for you here, like for example, like planter boxes or something a bit higher, I guess, is because the speed of this road is not a high speed road, but it's probably like a medium speed road. It's probably a 40 kilometer or 30 kilometer per hour road. And when the speed is that low, the need for a barrier, like maybe like planter boxes, becomes a bit less. And it's also contingent not only on the speed of the road and what people typically drive, but also the volume as well. And this in this image here from Canmore, it looks like a collector road. It doesn't look like a local road. And it doesn't look like an arterial. So it's kind of in between there. So on an arterial, you'd probably see a bit more separation, like vertical elements or horizontal elements. And then in a local road, you'd have a bit more mixing, but this is somewhere in between. And that's kind of where McIntyre Drive is as well. So we haven't there's definitely an opportunity to look at that, but there's also trade-offs to consider as well by introducing those elements. And one trade-off is that it doesn't offer it when people want to cross at a mid-block location. It's not as accessible sometimes, and there's also aesthetic considerations, or there's a various trade-offs that are associated, but we can definitely consider it. Does that answer your question, Richard?
Yeah, I think so. I just like to keep those kind of things in mind and having them looked at. As currently the McIntyre Drive, I think the speed limit is something like 30 or 35 that's posted, but obviously it's very difficult for drivers to adhere to that because the road is so wide. So if the other traffic calming measures that would be introduced in this project actually make that natural driving speed low enough, then the physical separation between cyclists and car traffic may not need to be as robust.
Yeah, that's our goal from the start, is to self-reinforce the speed that's desired for the corridor, and then look from there. Once we know what the desired speed is and the intended operating speed, and working from there to what's really needed and what's comfortable for people, what level of separation is comfortable for people when those speeds exist, and also when those traffic volumes exist too. So there's a few considerations for sure we can look at.
All right, well, thanks for speaking to that.
There is. So we do have some more time for questions here. In the meantime, I'll show you the engagewhitehorse.ca website. So if you scroll down, you can see project updates here. You can share any ideas that you might have for the project. You have an interactive map tool. You can use this map to let us know spots that you think need improvement, or where you typically cross the road, areas with drainage issues. And you can also use this tool to ask a question, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. I'll do 2 more calls for questions. So further questions about the project, or even if you don't have a question, do you have any comments, or is there any, oh, is that another question? I see a question come up. Is a preliminary design drawing available for the project at this time? When would opportunity for feedback on the design be available? Thank you for the question, Richard. So if you can still see my screen here, if you go to the project website, engagewhitehorse.ca, go to documents, and here on McIntyre, you can see the McIntyre Drive traffic calming conceptual design, and that's the conceptual design right there. I'll try and bring it over my screen. So this is the conceptual design right here, and you can review it as much as you want. Let us know what you think. Feel free to give us any comments as well that you think is useful for us, the design team, to know and incorporate in this project. I don't live in the neighborhood. I don't live nearby as well, and so I think any community insights that we have from you and others is really helpful. So yeah, feel free to share your ideas and interactive map, and use the interactive map to let us know what you think. You're welcome, Richard. Yeah, also, you can come to our pop-up booth at the Quinlan Community Rink on June 2nd. I'll bring a nice big drawing out of the conceptual design, and you can those who come can put sticky notes on the drawing and come and talk to our project team in person. All right, any other questions? Richard says, apologies for all the questions. No apologies needed, Richard. I'm also wondering if the maintenance of the infrastructure is planned, especially plowing of the bike pedestrian portions in the winter.
Want me to take that?
That is a great question, and thanks, Tracy, for being on the line for this one. This is
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
My apologies for being late to this meeting.
No problem. No problem. Yeah.
Hoping to make it on time. And don't apologize for the questions. They're great. So what we're doing right now, as part of a separate project, Richard, is an overall review of the city's snow and ice removal policy as a whole. And part of that is looking at trails and active transportation routes and what we need to do to better improve that service. So this would be definitely factored into that, obviously, once it's complete, but it will be a consideration.
Do you mind if I add something to that, Tracy, about
Not at all.
About the design aspects?
Yeah.
So Richard, I'm just gonna put the Canmore picture here. So we are trying to follow a similar design methodology here as Canmore, where the cycle track and the sidewalk are on the same elevation. This is useful because in the winter, snow is going to come off the road. It's going to be put in this buffer, and this depending on the level of snow, and if it's anything like this year, this area might decrease. But in the winter, since this is a level surface, it's not unreasonable for cyclists and for pedestrians to kind of share this space a bit more, and this can be more effectively cleared. So that's one of the reasons that we've chose this kind of design concept, because it's a lot easier to clear. As soon as you start dealing with different elevations of infrastructure, it becomes a little bit more difficult to clear. So does that answer your question, Richard?
Yeah, thank you. It's great to that you guys are putting this presentation and information session on, and I appreciate the opportunity to engage.
Yeah, thanks for engaging. Hope to see you at the pop-up, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll try to be there if I can. Thank you.
No worries.
Wonderful.
Anyways, I'll put out another call for questions here, but in the meantime, I'll just go over the conceptual design here. Shows kind of the general concept that we're building off of. And this is starting from the north here, this is the gas station here. And here's the Boyd Crescent intersection, Murphy Road. McCrimmon Crescent, McLennan, McCandless, Hannah, and McCandless again, and Hannah. This is right by the roundabout here. All right, I'm seeing no more questions. I think it's good to close here. Anyways, I do want to thank those of you who attended for taking some time out of a beautiful Thursday evening to come and learn more about the McIntyre Drive traffic calming project. Hope that you all take the opportunity to come swing by our pop-up booth on June 2nd. Check out engagewhitehorse.ca for all the latest information about the project. I'll end it here. Thank you for coming and wishing you all a good evening.